Combat airplanes have been part of our history since World War I, with stories of heroic battles and even more heroic flyers. The great global wars are history, and the aircraft that help us win them are now still. Their guns silent. I'm Bud Russo.
And I'm Cheryl Falstead, and we'll be your guides as we tour the War Eagles Air Museum in Santa Teresa, less than an hour south of Las Cruces. El Pasoans John and Betty McGuire not only flew airplanes, but they collected and preserved them. It was their passion, and in 1989, they decided to share their collection with the public, founding the War Eagles Air Museum.
The museum is housed in a 64,000 square foot hangar at the Doña Ana County Airport. More than 30 restored historic airplanes are on display, 22 of which are kept in flying condition.
Along with the airplanes is a collection of vintage automobiles that span the same time period as the aircraft.
If you love airplanes, you'll have to see this collection for yourselves. But for now, let's take a tour.
First impressions are always important. When you enter the hangar, you'll notice the bright colors and polished finishes on the airplanes, the smell of motor oil, and the hint of aviation fuel.
But there's something else in the background. Listen, World War II was also the age of swing, of Glenn Miller and Benny Goodman. Their music playing in the museum is certain to put you in the mood. It fills the space and softens the memories of harsh past conflicts.
For example, we're standing in front of a Fieseler Storch. This high-wing plane is famous for its role in rescuing Benito Mussolini from certain capture by the Allies. The plane needed only 250 feet to fly off a mountaintop near Monte Cassino with the Italian dictator.
And here is a de Havilland Tiger Moth, a two-seater biplane from the 1930s. It was used as a trainer both during World War II and for years afterwards by air forces of many countries.
This is the Hawker Fury, a fighter developed by the British. It was designed to fly from aircraft carriers battling the Japanese in the Pacific, but the war ended before it could be deployed.
That's not the case for the next two airplanes, the P-38 Lightning and the P-51 Mustang, two of the fastest and most maneuverable U.S. fighters during the war.
The P-38 was distinguished by its twin engines and twin rudders.
Here at the museum, the Mustang looks fast just sitting in the hangar. You can sense the thrill of flight in this airplane, feared by enemy pilots throughout the war.
In this fighter, do you recognize the sinister shark smile on the engine cowling?
This is a P-40 Warhawk, made famous by Claire Chennault and his Flying Tigers, an American squadron that shot down 286 enemy aircraft in 9 months, while losing only 4 of their own planes.
While the Army Air Corps was busy making a name for itself, the Navy was also fighting hard. This is a TBM Avenger, a torpedo bomber that helped the Allies win the Battle of Midway, the turning point of World War II in the Pacific. The rear gunner helped protect the low-flying airplane on its bombing run.
Late in World War II, the jet engine made its debut, and this F-86 Sabre jet, one of America's first jet fighters, ruled the skies over Korea, winning dogfights with Russian MiG-15s flown by the Chinese during the Korean War.
There are a number of other interesting jet aircraft in the museum, including a T-33 Shooting Star, an F-84 Thunderstreak, an A-7 Corsair, and this MiG-21.
Outside is a Russian Tupolev light bomber with the names of the restoration crew written on the fuselage in the Cyrillic alphabet.
The largest planes in this collection are the DC-3 Transport and an A-26 Invader bomber. The DC-3 is famous not only for flying the hump over the Himalayas between India and China. Remember, this plane did not have a pressurized heated cabin, but also because after nearly 75 years, these planes are still in use.
This A-26 bomber is currently undergoing restoration. It was used extensively both in the Pacific and Europe during World War II, as well as in Korea and Vietnam.
Near the entrance to the hangar, we find a yellow stripe painted on the floor. The stripe represents the length of Orville Wright's first successful flight at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, on December 17, 1903. On that flight, Wright flew 120 feet in 12 seconds.
Interestingly, the wingspan of a Boeing 757 jetliner, one many of us use for transcontinental flights these days, is just 2 inches short of 125 feet.
Think how far we've come in the first century of flight.
Interspersed among the airplanes are smaller exhibits. There's a Link Trainer, one of the first flight simulators used to train pilots, and the forerunner of the sophisticated computer-controlled simulators used today.
There's a display of survival gear carried by pilots forced to ditch their planes in water or land wheels up on ground.
There's also a salute to women in aviation. While the men were fighting in combat, women served in many essential jobs, like ferrying aircraft from the factories to frontline airfields and flying passengers and cargo in non-combat areas.
The War Eagles Air Museum is at 8012 Airport Road in Santa Teresa. Take Interstate 10 south from Las Cruces. At exit 6 in Texas, go west on Highway 178, Artcraft Road.
This becomes the Pete Domenici Memorial Highway, number 136, when you re-enter New Mexico. At the traffic light, turn right onto Airport Road and look for the airport entrance.
The War Eagles Air Museum is open Tuesday through Sunday from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. Admission is $5 for adults and $4 for seniors. Children under 12 are free. For more information, call 575-589-2000 or go to wareaglesairmuseum.com.
Historical photos in this podcast are courtesy of the United States National Archives, the Navy, and the Air Force. This podcast is sponsored by the Las Cruces Convention and Visitors Bureau
and produced by Explore New Mexico.